of the race that has provided the Triumph Hurdle form for the last 4 years, that's the horse I'd take out of it. You know, Hello Neighbour, as I said, 5 to 1, 11 to 2. The horse who finished off best of all, 20 to 1. And then, of course, he bumped into potentially one of the best horses, certainly one of the best chasing debuts I've ever seen. A jockey came up to us at the presentation podium and said, you guys have no idea what you're doing. Why are you always having to go at the jockeys? But quite aggressive and in your face. I spoke to Frankie Dettori about it, and he said, if you feel that was the right thing to do, you ask the question. He goes, and if people don't like it, that's their problem.
Hello and welcome back to the Only Fools Love Horses YouTube channel. It's episode 3 of the Cheltenham Festival Ante-post series. And it's the Dublin Racing Festival review debrief. We've had a great weekend of action over at Leopardstown. Some grade 1 action to get stuck into. Lee was there on course. We'll get his assessment of the Galopin de Champs success and all the bits in between. And as I said right at the start, it is the 3rd episode of the Cheltenham Festival Ante-post series. We've got our 3rd guest on for the series, returning viewer as well, Rishi Persad. We had him on the series last year. Rishi, first of all, how are you? How's the run-up to Cheltenham treating you? Must be quite a busy time for yourself.
Yeah, it's terrific. Thank you very much for having me back on, Ashley. Good to see you both. It is what I think all of us experiencing right now. I know people go on, and there are some people who moan about how we talk about Cheltenham throughout the season, but you can't help but get away from it. Even if we all appreciate the quality of the good racing that we're seeing, it's all done through the prism of the Cheltenham Festival. That's because it means so much to all of us who like it. And I love it. So I know we're the beginning of February. I feel like we've got through the hardest month of any year. It's always January. And now we've kind of broken into February. I feel like it's just around the corner, and now the excitement levels continue to rise. I can't wait.
It really is a good time to be a racing fan. Yourself, just like, there was plenty of questions in our comments on our Twitter post when we said we had you on, and there's a couple that sort of like, what's it like for a broadcaster, for a presenter around the time of Cheltenham and being in the week of Cheltenham? You've done sort of, not to put a number on your age or anything, but you've done multiple Cheltenham festivals. What is it like being in the sort of the buzz of it, the thrill of it, with the microphone, speaking to all the people that everyone wants to hear from?
But the hardest part is staying calm. If I'm entirely honest, you can think about, yes, you're excited to be there. You know it's a privilege to be in that position, but because of all that, and because ultimately most of us doing the job are racing fans, purely, like all of you guys, all of us, we're all racing fans, and quite often you're kind of sometimes pinching yourself, going, "How lucky am I to be here? How lucky am I to be paid to be here?" And there's that real appreciation. So quite often you get up. When I get there on the Monday, it feels like everything's going at 100 miles an hour, getting ready for the week. And then once the day gets there on Tuesday, again, it just feels like it's flying by. And you sometimes just have to sit quietly, find a little part of Cheltenham. If you're lucky enough to be in a nice-ish hotel, you can just sit there quietly, wherever you are, and just take it in and just pause, because it does go so quickly, and you just try and it can sweep you up, and then suddenly the week's gone. You've missed a few things. You don't really appreciate just how lucky you are to be in those positions. One thing that really helps with that is by staying calm, which is easier said than done. But I try to stay calm. I try to think as clearly as possible. I mean, I don't always achieve it. I'll be honest. I make mistakes, but I do try to stay calm, just so I can appreciate how lucky I am and take in some of the, remember after, Willie Mullins brought up his 100th winner last year, and just thinking, there was a time then, I remember during the Corto Denman years, or even before that, when, going to Cheltenham to watch Master Oates or whatever, you're thinking, I'll never see a trainer train 70, 80 winners. And here we are, who knows how many Willie Mullins is going to get. And this sort of historic stuff that in years to come, you'll be like, do you remember Willie Mullins trained 150 winners or whatever it is, and you were there for the 100th? It's crazy.
It really is, and you're definitely in a position that many people envy anyway. Lee, you were in Leopardstown on the weekend, in the mix of the racing and the rugby crowd as well in Dublin. Just what was the Dublin Racing Festival like? What were sort of some of your notable moments that you're sort of you're reflecting back and thinking that was quite special?
Was fantastic. Actually, it was. I think Saturday was really special. Look, we're homing in on Galloping Deschamps. He's now going for 3 Gold Cups, but that was 3 Irish Gold Cups as well, which is a rare feat in itself. When he come back in, the crowd was electric. They were singing, they were buzzing. The numbers were a little bit down because of the rugby, but not by much. But the crowd still was singing away and creating that electric atmosphere. Honestly, I had a fantastic time. I did comment on someone's post before. Everything was catered to. Last year, I did see, there was longer queues for, X, Y, and Z toilets, food, drink, everything. Everything was noted by Leopardstown and adapted, and I thought they'd done a fantastic job to cater for everyone and make that experience a lot better for the customer. So yeah, look, I had a great time. I'll be booking up for next year, but look, we're kicking on to the festival. That's what it's all about, and I can't wait to get to Cheltenham in March.
Definitely, yeah. Yourself as well. You're in an envious position as well. So we're going to talk a little about the Dublin Racing Festival. You may notice that Rishi doesn't look like Harry. Harry is going to be part of the video, much like last week. He's travelling back from work as we speak, and he might even drop back in for this section to talk about his Ante-post fancy. Fingers crossed if he doesn't hit any traffic, but it'll definitely be in the second part of the video where we go for a little bit of a weekend preview with the Denman Chase and the Game Spirit and the not Betfair Hurdle, the William Hill Hurdle. We're going to talk a little bit about Dublin Racing Festival before we get into our Cheltenham Festival Ante-post tips, and we'll keep this quite an open conversation, gents, but I'll go Rishi first. We actually put in sort of our Twitter post saying any questions for Rishi, and one of them from Ian Rayner of the Cheltenham Exchange podcast. Who was Rishi's standout performance from the Dublin Racing Festival? That can go and do it again at the Cheltenham Festival, maybe not Galloping Deschamps. So it's a question I posed to you in the comments before we spoke, but standout performance for you from the Dublin Racing Festival?
Well, I thought there were 3 horses who won that I felt enhanced their Cheltenham Festival claims from the Grade 1 races. Final Demand, Kopek de Board, and I think Ballyburn. I say Ballyburn with a caveat that I think a lot of people questioned Ballyburn's season to this point because they weren't that impressed with his chasing debut, and then obviously he went to Kempton where things weren't really set up for him for the fact that wasn't really going to be, that wouldn't have been the ideal plan until obviously the program changed in Ireland, and the race that he would have run in around Christmas time in Ireland was taken out of the calendar, and so unfortunately he didn't have that option. And then of course he bumped into potentially one of the best horses, certainly one of the best chasing debuts I've ever seen. So I think his performance was a huge positive, but there is still that question mark about just how good a jumper he is, how well he'd be suited by the test at Cheltenham over fences, how good he is in comparison to Dancing City, who are the top 2 in the market for the race. So that was one positive, but for his going forward to Cheltenham, I still think he's still got to go there and prove he is by far the best horse. I thought Final Demand was impressive, no doubt, but I've got to confess that my initial reaction when he hit the line was, he'll be a certainty in the Albert Bartlett. In the Turners, I think he's more vulnerable. But Willie Mullins certainly didn't seem to have the Albert Bartlett in his thoughts whatsoever. It's all about the Turners. So therefore, the horse that I felt really enhanced their claims for Cheltenham, and probably in the category that we've been waiting for a standout performance, the 2-mile novice hurdlers, I thought Kopek de Board was absolutely magnificent and improved enormously from when he won at Christmas time, where, as his trainer said, he kicked every hurdle out of the way, yet won by a comfortable distance. This time, I thought his jumping was much better, ridden with enormous amount of confidence by Townend, and I think he's the standard setter. I think he'll take some stopping. I thought of all the horses that won the Grade 1 races anyway at the Dublin Racing Festival, I thought he was a horse that went, yeah, I'm now the leader in my division, and there's nothing that I'm really too concerned about against him.
Yeah, I actually came to sort of similar conclusions about Final Demand. I thought that if he was to be a Turner's horse, he'd be a bit more vulnerable in that race because you've got the likes of the New Lion, 6 Mile Bridge, potentially Cowabunga again, Potter's Charm if he bounces back. Whereas the Albert Bartlett, if he went into that, geez, he'd be tough to beat in that. You'd also have to think. I saw an interview earlier from the owner is I can't forget Brian Drew. Yeah, you've got Fishery Lane as well, which could be an Albert Bartlett horse. That might also be potentially in the thoughts of just what they're doing forward. But yeah, I agree with that sort of amalgamation of things. Lee, what was sort of one of your standout performances away from Galopin Des Champs? What do you think of Ballyburn? Were you impressed? Think he's enhanced his Brown Advisory credentials?
Look, I was too busy like watching it with the owners, and I was trying to see people's reaction. I like to get like right in the mix of it. Kopech the Boar, I'll get on him and his owners, but yeah, look, Ballyburn, I'm yet to watch it back, to be totally honest. I was trying to just see him getting over the fence. I see him go low on a few, but I thought he put in a fair performance. I did actually see. I was next to Michael O'Leary, name dropping here, but I was next to Michael O'Leary, and I says, "Yours ran a great race there," and he went, "It's been stuffed. It was demolished by Ballyburn." And I says, "You've jumped the last to cover." Do you know? Like I was like, "It's ran a fair race," and he was like, "No, it's not." And yeah, crabbing it. Good old Michael, anyways. But look, I thought it was a fair enough performance. My standout one was Kopech the Boar. I thought. Ran a huge race. I was at a preview in the morning at the hotel. Patrick Mullins says the first day he seemed to screw at the first fence, and it set him off into maybe as a catalyst for mistakes into the race the last day. Obviously the engine was clearly there. It's just whether he could bring that jump into the table as well. Apparently it's one of the better jumpers back at home. And as the race went up, I noticed RTV showed the race IQ there, and as the racing went on, the jumping improved and got significantly better. So yeah, look, you did notice that, especially at the last. I thought it was superb, powered away to the line. I think it'd be tough to beat in the Supreme. You've obviously got Salvador Mundi. They've waxed lyrical about this horse, and they've kind of always says, look, he is the one, but I think it'll be hard if Paul Townend deserts Kopech the Boar. And I had video with the owners, and I was talking to the lads earlier on, and they were ecstatic about it. I think it's what racing's all about. They were jumping for joy. They were emotional. Like, I don't want to say the lads were all crying, but I tell you what, it was flowing. I know that. And yeah, look, I just thought it was a great performance, a great reaction, and onwards and upwards for them. So good luck to them anyway.
Yeah, I find it funny as well that Salvatore Mundi, before the Dublin Racing Festival, the narrative was like that he's the number one Supreme horse. He's the horse we're going to battle with. And then we're on the other side of it. I know it's a really good performance from Kopech the Boar, but it's kind of like Salvatore Mundi who? He's now...
The reaction in the market is so Kopech the Boar, you could have got 74 this morning. I've seen it touched 65 there before, and it was a strong reaction from Mundi as well. That they went right out to 92, and he was really well back for the race. The market was interested in, even for Final Demand, he's been really well backed. And for that other options as well, you know, Kopech for the turners, he's very weak on the exchanges. It's kind of already a sealed deal if you're going by the market.
I half thought there was a chance they could do Salvatore Mundi, Supreme, Kopech, maybe up to the Turners, and then Final Demand to the Albert Bartlett, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
Is that possible? God on.
Yeah, well, kind of, but not all the way anyway.
I think one or two bookmakers are going non-runner no bet, as you know, and I think in that market, Kopech is as short as evens. It's 11 to 10.
It's short, but like if you take away Mundi, you either like him or you don't. And then Romeo Coolio, grade one winner, but going fresh to the festival. What's left in behind is the problem.
Yeah, he has to be that short. He simply has to be. He's the standout so far, and you'd be a brave person taking him on, but maybe Salvatore Mundi might come back around anyway. Mine just a small curveball. Obviously, the obvious performances were very impressive, but I just thought Bambino Fever was very good in the mares. Bumper, the final race. I completely missed it in my day's state of looking through the racing the night before, but Switch from Diesel's a horse that I like. I backed her in the mares bumper last season because she has Redemption Day and Jalon Duderi's form. She ran an absolute belter. I thought she was going to win, and this Mullins thing under Jodie Townsend just comes and absolutely picks her up and wins quite comfortably. She looks a lot different horse to Fleur Facile, who won the race last year. She was a massive hothead last year. She seems a bit more calmer as Bambino Fever. If she doesn't go to the champion bumper, she could be one for that Aintree Mares bumper, I'd say, in April time. She looked quite smart. And go on.
I think that, sorry, Ash, I was just going to mention that future prospect, what Patrick was. I think her race was gone in the paddock, to be honest, was very lively. Oh, yeah. I wish I did back her, to be honest, and I wish I hadn't have after. I should have waited until the paddock and try and got on the tote or something. But look, I think she had blew her race, to be honest. And look, she was done at the first day. She was very keen. She was free, and she was lit up all the way around, and she kind of done that at the weekend as well. So they need to settle her better to start winning more.
You should start up a new service, a paddock watching league. You'll be absolutely making them the money. What about sort of eye catch then, gents? Another one sort of posed before we record the video. Rishi, is there one maybe that caught the eye potentially? Graded or handicap or anything?
There's one horse. So one race that, I mean, they all have a significant bearing on Cheltenham since the Dublin Racing Festival has started. But one race in particular, the Spring Juvenile Hurdle, has had a huge bearing on the Triumph Hurdle. The last 4 winners of the Triumph have all come out of that race. Admittedly, Lossiemouth got beaten, but then went on to win the Triumph. Obviously, Vauban, Quilixios, etc. So it's a great guide. Lou Lambert and East India Dock are obviously standouts. Personally, I think East India Dock has achieved a lot more than Lou Lambert in those 3 runs. And certainly the 2 wins at Cheltenham have been hugely impressive. And actually speaking to Andy Holding about it and the time figures that East India Dock has delivered, outstanding. So he's the one that I do think is the horse to beat in the Triumph Hurdle. Hello Neighbour obviously won, but the horse that I really like out of the race is the runner-up, Galileo Dane. Now, I probably have a soft spot for her because I quite liked her on the flat. I thought she ran an all right race in the Irish Oaks, but she'd beaten Rubies in Red at the beginning of the season, and she actually finished off her season by finishing second to Hamish in a big field in a listed race. And then she went hurdling. Her first run came at Christmas time, where it was hard to see. But from what you did see, because of the fog, I don't think she jumped that well. Yet she still had a chance of winning her race. She finished second to Wenrock. And I think with slightly better luck, she might have won that. And I liked how she jumped better. And I liked how she finished her race. Now, I'm not saying she's going to win the Triumph Hurdle, but when you look at the prices for Hello Neighbour, who's I think around 11-2, 5-1, she's 20s. And I like her progression from run 1 over hurdles to 2. And I liked how she finished the race. She was dropped out of the back, and when she turned in the straight, she was the last horse in, and she was finishing off really strongly at the end. I don't think she's got to find a great deal based on that run to fill a spot at 20-1. I think East India Dock and Lou Lambert, I think East India Dock is the one to beat. But I think she could run into a big place at a big price. So of the race that has provided the Triumph Hurdle form for the last 4 years, that's the horse I'd take out of it. Hello Neighbour, as I said, 5-1, 11-2. The horse who finished off best of all, 20-1.
Galileo Dane, one for the trackers. As we promised at the start of the video, the man who has been travelling back from work, Harry, is here. Harry,
how are we?
Fashionably late, I think, is the word for yourself. No, it's good to see you. It's good to have you on. We know you're a hard worker anyway, but we'll just chuck you straight into it, Harry. Dublin Racing Festival. An eye catcher maybe, or like a horse you're really quite impressed by over the weekends? Is there anything that sort of springs to mind off the top of your head?
I think coming away just right off the top of my head, and 30 seconds from jumping out of the car, I actually thought Marine Nationale's effort in behind Solness, I thought that was a much improved performance. I mean, going past the stands the first time, and obviously having a tattoo of Facile Vega, I despise Marine Nationale all of his life, but I actually thought going past the stands the first time, I thought, his head's up in the air. I can't see him lasting out and finishing his race off because he's had these wind issues before. But I actually thought he ran really, really well. He just got tired after the last. He was the only one that made up considerable ground to Solness, who obviously stole the race. I mean, what the jockeys were doing in behind is caused much debate on social media over the last few days. But take nothing away from the winner, and I think Marine Nationale is definitely a contender. I'd fancy him to reverse the form with Solness, but I mean, neither of them or anything will beat John Bon in March. So, I mean, the eye catcher from my perspective over Dublin is irrelevant. So, as is usually the case.
Good to have you back, Harry. You really
Rishi, great to see you. Great
nice
to see you,
Harry.
Last time I saw you, actually, Rishi, was the I think it was the ROA Awards. I think. I think
last
it was the
Christmas.
last time I saw you. Yeah, I think it was the
Just
last
before
time I saw
Christmas.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Is that when
But
the
that
stage
was,
fell down?
I didn't see that bit. I must admit I had a fair few drinks. I was on the dance floor at that point.
Harry,
But-
who was better to meet, Rishi Persad or Tony Carroll? Who was the better
Wow.
one at the ROA Awards?
Oh, do you know what? I saw Rishi in a different state than what I saw Tony Carroll in. I actually met Tony Carroll in the toilets of the ROA Awards that night, which was it was a great night, to be fair. And actually, a funny story about that. Fergal's assistant is Charlie, I think his name is Charlie St Quinton.
Yeah.
He had runners they were at Taunton, I think it was. And how they managed to get up and go to Taunton that next day, I have no idea. I mean, it was such a great night, and no, definitely one to look forward to in the future. Anyway, how are you, lads? All good?
Oh, you've made an absolutely sterling reappearance, Harry. It's absolutely great to have you. Lee, was there any horse that caught the eye from you from the Dublin Racing Festival? I thought that Monbeg Park, by the way, ran a really, really good race. I know I backed him, and it is.
Give up the ghost for him, like
No. I won't be giving up. He ran an absolute belter.
I know, but we picked you up off the bottom of the cliff so many times with him. Like,
hey, I got place money back on the weekend. I was happy. No, I thought you ran a big race. He travelled like a good horse. I know he had a £5 claimer on the saddle, so he won't have that. Maybe won't have that next time, but he's definitely got a handicap in him. And I didn't like the tail swishing at the end. He was flicking his tail as his finishing effort. I didn't like that. So I keep an eye on that going forward. He does strike me as sometimes a bit ungenuine, but when he is on the going day, he's a good horse, and I think he's a well handicapped horse. Anyway, Lee, is there an eye catch or anything from you for the Dublin Racing Festival?
Look, I think your eyes always drawn to where your money goes as well. But I did think Qualamita of Gordon's ran a good race, and the mares listed there. It was a good performance from Emmett Mullins and Danny Mullins from the winner. They actually bought the horse with that in mind for Paddy and Maureen. Was the name on the tin, but. I thought Qualamita was one to take out of the race, ran on well for third. And also, look, I back Savant, Colin Murphy's. It always seems to get into trouble, and it stayed on really well again. If you watch it back, it was round the houses that had 2 false starts and got left a little bit back. It was in the Vanguard, and I thought, here we go. We're going to be bounced out. And she was left misplaced again and tried to come all the way around them. She got into trouble. She stayed on again. I think she was about 6th or 7th in the end. But yeah, I will go in again because I think she'll pick up a good pop maybe across an island somewhere. So Savant and Qualamita from the same race there, the Mares Hurdle.
Amazing stuff. I think that's Dublin Racing Festival covered. Before we go into our Cheltenham Festival tips, just one final question for Rishi from our comments, and it's again from Ian because there was a question about do you feel pressure when you're doing television, but we sort of kind of already answered that already. But bit of a maybe on the spot one. But who's been the most difficult person to interview in your sporting career? Could be. I know you do a lot of different sports with tennis and anything.
What a question that is!
Has there been a real humdinger of an interview?
Can I add something? Like, does it also differ from the BBC to RTV to ITV? Like, would the styles differ as well? Just while you're out there.
It differs more because of the event, not so much the broadcaster. You kind of they all ask you to be, decent at what you do and be journalistically on the spot. But there are some events that you have to tailor it slightly differently. Like, say, for example, at Wimbledon, doing it on centre court, they've just finished playing, they've just won, and normally it's quite a fluffy interview because they're happy. Whatever else has happened in the match, anything controversial, doesn't really matter because they've won, they've got over it. But occasionally, there's always a slightly awkward one. And I did one last year with Novak Djokovic, which created quite a stir because he thought the crowd were having a go at him.
Oh, were you interviewing that guy? I remember that quite clearly now, actually. Yeah.
So I said, he was playing Holger Rune, and the crowd, because it was one of those that stayed, they put the roof on, the lights on, and it went till after 10 o'clock. So the crowd had obviously been there all day, probably had a little bit of a drink, but nothing terrible. But they're cheering for Rune, and it's the British cheer for a Rooney or a Joe Root. So it's a Rune. And Djokovic seemed to think that that was a boo against Djokovic, and they were supporting Rune. So at the end of the match, you just sort of, your mind is chilled because you're just focusing on what you need to speak to Djokovic about winning. And I thought, because he did a few, of that during the match. So I just threw the question, I said, you seem to enjoy the interaction with the crowd, to which I didn't expect the answer, definitely, because I thought he was going, yes, it's great fun. This is a great crowd. That's normally what they say. But he took a pause and he said, when you pay your money and you come to an event, you can cheer for whoever you want. But when you start disrespecting a player, and in this case, me, then I've got something to say. And at which point I'm slightly a little bit shaken by, because I didn't expect it coming. And obviously the crowd start booing. So I then said to him, I'm not sure they were disrespecting you. I believe that they were cheering for Rune. And he said, oh, no. Let me tell you, I've been in this game for a long time. I know what they were doing. But, you need to do better than that. And then he said, and I've got a message for all of them. Have a good night. Which obviously at that point, they started shouting and swearing at him. I said, well done, well played. You're a magnificent player. Great stuff. Good luck in your next round. Came off court, and he was still fuming when he came off court. And then obviously, because it was Novak Djokovic on centre court making that sort of comment, it was extraordinary, the phone calls and messages and stuff like that. That was generally the hardest interviews are always the ones where the person that you're about to interview has had a tough time. Yeah. Whenever they've won, it's generally pretty easy and straightforward. It's the tough
like that.
Sorry, Lee?
Then you stand out in racing that you could say like that or not?
I remember, after Reed Wilding was killed or died in the King George at Ascot years ago, and John Gosden, lucky enough, he was the one I was interviewing. He actually dealt with it brilliantly for me. But even something like, Micheal Nolan at Cheltenham recently, just off the top of my head, in the cross-country chase, it was great that he did speak, but it's awkward, isn't it? And you want to ask them the honest question, which was, what happened there? They answer it, and sometimes they answer it defending themselves, and you're like, I'm pretty certain you look like you were taking the wrong course, but I understand what you're thinking. So it's quite, when they're being nice to come and talk to you about it, but when they're still not entirely, going to give you the answer that you want, getting the balance right is always quite important. And that's the hardest bit, because you want to be a little bit more journalistically sharp to say, listen, it's clear that wasn't the case or whatever. It's just, again, seeing that Lee name drop with Michael O'Leary, I just very quickly remember the first interview I ever did with Tiger Woods in 2013 was when he dropped the ball in the wrong spot at the US Masters, and he really should have been disqualified by the strict reading of the rules. But there was we have discretion rules, so he was allowed to carry on. So that happened on the Friday. On the Saturday, when he came in to do his interview, because no one really worked it out until Friday evening and the night, and then the Saturday morning was chaos. When he came in to do his interview on the Saturday evening after playing, his agent sort of comes into the room beforehand and says, listen, if you guys want to interview Tiger Woods, just remember, this guy's in contention to win the Masters. Yeah, nothing about what happened. Let's keep it about tomorrow and today. Nothing about what happened yesterday. So that was a bit scary, because then he's come in, and my producer at BBC is like, "You've got to ask him."
You've got to go.
My heart is, as if I hadn't interviewed Tiger Woods before, and my heart is beating at 100 miles an hour. Apart from the fact that I'm a big Tiger Woods fan as well. So he came in, and I'm thinking, his agent standing there, if I ask him a question, I'll be, there'll be an X across my now. I'll never be seen anywhere on a golf course ever again. So I thought I'd fudge it a little bit with a sort of half-hearted question. So I said, right, Tiger, can you sum up your last 24 hours for us? And he looked at me and he just went, yeah, of course. I played golf yesterday and I played golf today. Full stop. And I thought, oh my God, this is heartbreaking. I'm devastated. I don't know what I'm going to do here. But then he smiled because I was obviously taking the mickey a little bit. So I then said, okay, and because of the rules and the way they're set out, did you ever consider that you would have to withdraw for the tournament? Do you ever consider that you'd have to exit the tournament at this stage? And he's like, no, I didn't break any rules, blah, blah, blah. You know, the committee's had a look at it. So, you know, something like that was really one of the toughest interviews I've ever had to do in that sort of scenario. But those are always the people are generally okay to deal with, all of them, because they're all pretty professional.
You never had Barney Curley in your face like Luke?
Never had Barney. I've had jockeys come up to me off camera to give me a piece of their mind. A jockey came up to me, I'll never forget, I was with Steve Mellish at Nottingham, and we were talking about the draw, and we were saying that you don't want to be bang on the, I can't remember, whatever it was, not either bang or whatever it was. And a jockey came up to us at the presentation podium and said, you guys have no idea what you're doing, why are you always having to go at the jockeys, but quite aggressive and in your face. And we said, well, you know, it's pretty obvious that you don't want to be down on the rail, because a horse hasn't won down on the rail since, you know, 1996 or whatever it was. We stood our ground off camera, obviously. But yeah, that sometimes they'll do that. But quite often the ones who want to do that don't want to do it on camera.
Yeah. Do you ever feel like, I know, like, look, this could go down an absolute rabbit hole here, but it's always a question I wanted to ask top presenters. But you see Racing Twitter. I know Racing Twitter.
Answer it in a minute.
Racing Twitter can be a pretty an interesting place, to put it that way. But one thing that always gets sort of brought about is, like, you know, people or presenters not asking questions that maybe people want asked. Do you ever feel pressure to ask certain questions? Because obviously, you know, we've had the whole thing with trainers, you know, potentially wanting money for interviews, and like they're doing interviews sort of on, like, you know, goodwill kind of thing. Do you ever feel pressure to ask difficult questions to trainers and jockeys who could just turn around and go, do you know what, sling your hook kind of thing?
I will be, again, entirely honest. When I first started, 20 however many years ago, don't let these boyish looks fool you. But when I started all those years ago, it was a lot harder to do, because you're concerned that you're going to disappoint people, are you going to upset people, and that will be you out of the picture, you know, and you'll be blacklisted, and you won't be able to interview them again, and how that would affect your career, etc. So there was always that. But as I've got older, more confident, hopefully, and a little bit more assured that, you know, if I do ask a difficult question and it's worthy of being asked, then there is no way that I can be in trouble for that. They have to understand that. So that's come with age, but I've done it more recently than I have done in the past. You know, hands up, I'll be honest about that. But it is harder when you're just getting in, and when you're just trying to have getting in, trying to establish yourself. I mean, some people have done it from the start, which is fine, but it's an individual thing. But it is hard. It is hard because you are, especially racing, is such a closed shop and a small circle, that it often feels like if you're on the outside, you are on the outside, and there's no way back in. I think racing, perhaps more than other sports that I've worked on, has more of a cliquey feel to it than some others. And so because of that, you kind of feel like you want to stay in there rather than hurt your position. But I think if you gain confidence in your position, ultimately you can put that pressure on. You know, like I say, I feel like I do it more now than I've ever done before. So hopefully that comes with age and with sort of learning more than anything else. But I do think that we could be a bit more critical when we have to be. You know, I don't think. You know, I remember when I 2 years or a year into my first year, a month into my first year broadcasting, and I criticised a ride that Richard Quinn gave a horse on Sir Henry Cecil's, and he completely blanked me. And I remember Frank Editori telling me, I spoke to Frank Editori about it, and he said, if you feel that was the right thing to do, you ask the question. He goes, and if people don't like it, that's their problem. But if it's the right thing to do, do it.
There you go.
Yeah, so I hope I've asked him the tougher questions over the years, Frankie.
Well, it's always a question I wanted answering, and there you go. Anyway, after the small tangent, we're back on the straight and narrow for back onto the Cheltenham talk. Anyway, a bit more light-hearted. Everyone can smile.
Well, it will be light-hearted when I say about the horse that I'm going to oppose.
Well, it's going to be very familiar to one person here on the series, but we'll go to you first, Rishi, for your Cheltenham tip, and I'm sure Lee might have some agreement with you in parts. But what's your Cheltenham tip for the Ante-post series?
So I like the Wall Park in the Stayers Hurdle. I know that he might, well, obviously the Thames because he won the qualifier so comfortably at Cheltenham. But I think I've looked through the Stayers Hurdle market a number of times, and I've looked for the up-and-comers. I think there are only 2 horses ahead of him in the market that I'd be worried about. Obviously, the defending champion, Ante-post, who's going down the same route as he did last year with that run, and then straight onto the festival. And then the other horse would be Home by the Lee, who really good when he beat Bob Bollinger last time and ran really well in the race last year. So clearly those are the 2 horses, but they're quite well exposed. I think the Wall Park is unexposed over 3 miles. He only had a couple of goes over it. The other thing, interestingly, about the Wall Park, I think, and it's my theory, I haven't seen anybody else talk about it, not even connections. I actually think he's better going left-handed than he is going right-handed. You watch a couple of his runs, certainly the runs this year, the Galway runs, even when he won the 3-runner race, he doesn't look entirely comfortable and he's off the bridle. I don't think he travelled as well in those races as he did at Cheltenham. And then the way he hits the line at Cheltenham, he turns into the straight in the qualifier that he won, where he's just coming off the bridle and he's caught in a bit of a gap, and then they all open up. But he jumps the last really well, and then he powers up the hill. He bolts away from Gowell Road, which hasn't proven bad form as it is. And then obviously the race that he won before coming to Cheltenham, that where he's miles back turning for home, and then he just takes off at Galway and he wins that race, staying on strong. He hits the line pretty hard. And at Ascot, he made a mistake 3 out, and then he's caught in behind horses. They turn into the straight, and you look at the first and second, the first and third, Crambo and Beauport, they were always prominent. Hidden Valley Leg was in the next group, and Wall Park was tracked in behind them. Yet he's finished best of all, having been widest and furthest back of all the horses who finished in the first 3 or 4 positions. So I like the fact that he hasn't run since, because, you look at Crambo and Strong Leader and everyone else, they've sort of decimated their chances. I think that he's the 3rd best horse in the race on what he's done so far, or 3rd most exciting horse in the race, behind Ante-post and Home by the Lee. He's around 14-1 for the race. And I think that he's the one that I'd like to be on, because I still don't know how good he is. And I don't think the standard set by Ante-post and Home by the Lee is totally insurmountable for a horse like the Wall Park, who's completely unexposed still over 3 miles.
There you go. The Wall Park is in the team. 1 vote for the Stayers and 1 vote for the Thames with Lee on episode 1 of the series. So certainly a fan of the show anyway is the Wall Park. Harry, we'll go over to you. You are going to put up a Cheltenham fancy. We've been speaking a little bit about Ballyburn when you weren't on, and just sort of, Rishi saying he potentially enhance his credentials to the Brown Advisory. You can tie it in because your horse is going to be in the Brown Advisory, your tip. But what is your latest tip for the Cheltenham Festival?
Yeah, I think Dancing City. I think the news with the Jukebox Man coming out in the last last week or so, I think that's put a real dent on the actual race itself. We're all fans of the Jukebox Man, and the way that he was progressing as an upcoming chaser, his winning the Quarto Star was magnificent. And he just looked more mature than what he was as a novice hurdler. And it's a shame, but the horse that beat him at Aintree, Dancing City, he looks a different beast over fences. And whereas Ballyburn, I understand the fact that his engine got him out of trouble at Leopardstown. And look, that's always been a big thing for him. He destroys horses. His finishing effort, he always proved he was going to be a stayer. Sagino, albeit he destroyed him at Kempton, but that was over a trip far too short, and that was evident at the weekend. But Dancing City, for me, look, he's an 8-year-old. He's very lightly raced. He's had 11 races to date. He's had 2 chase starts. And I thought he beat Bioluminescence, who obviously, I know someone's going to give a good mention to later on in the video, but I think that form is very good because she's very, very smart. And, Dancing City, he jumped the last and he jumped so well at Nace on deplorable ground. And within a matter of strides, he put distance between himself and Bioluminescence. I think the only worry would be for me would be the fact that Paul Townend, there is not a chance that Paul Townend will not ride Ballyburn. Now, if you go in there, he has to ride Ballyburn, simple as. But then you've got Danny Mullins, who, we like these horses that go from the front, and I could just see Dancing City putting the pressure on these horses around the track in the Brown Advisory, putting Ballyburn's jump into the test, and looking down the field. I was saying to Lee on the phone earlier, I was torn between himself and Better Days Ahead, who I think is a really, really smart horse. It was a shame not to see him in the race that obviously Ballyburn won at the weekend, but he's entered at the weekend, I believe. So I'd say that, in my opinion, the lay of the week at this stage for me will be Ballyburn based on his jumping. I cannot see. No, that is just my opinion. I don't think his jumping will stand him in good stead, especially around Cheltenham, with a horse as good of a calibre as Dancing City over a fence. If you're taking a horse on at Cheltenham, you need something to go with you and go to war with. And Dancing City is going to be he's going to be the one that I go to war with.
There you are. Not only is he putting out Dancing City, he's going lay of the festival at this current stage, Ballyburn. Wow. You're certainly
2-1. You know what? It's an absolutely horrific price. It is horrific. And that is just the truth. Anyone taking 2-1 needs their head screwing on.
Not sure
that's my rant. That's my rant for the week. I get one a week. That's my rant.
There you are, Dancing City. Strong votes, it seems, then, from Harry for the Brown Advisory. Lee, come over to you. Episode 3, Fancy for the Cheltenham Festival. What are you putting forward?
Yeah, well, I think we're all linking in it today, but Bioluminescence for me, in the mare's chase, I think she's got a solid chance. I know people are saying, look, she's ground dependent. She does like that softer ground. The last few run-ins of it have been on softer. But I think that new course, the stamina test, will suit her. 2 mile 4.5 for the mares there. But she stayed on fine against Dancing City the last day over 3 mile. It was on heavy ground, but because of the conditions of the race, she had to give a pound to Dancing City. I thought she put up a huge performance. The day before, the last time she ran before that, I thought it was a cracking display. First time out for her. She was a graded winner over hurdles. The form is working out well, and yeah, look, I want to get her in the bag. The reason I want to get her in now is because the Opera Hat, it runs on Saturday there, as we record, and there's a last chance basically maybe for the mares chase to sort their pecking order. There's a few in there, Only by Night, Gavin Cromwell as well. Look, she's been impressive so far. Both Limerick Lace, I thought, is disappointed. Dino Blue is disappointed. And then there's a few in the mares chase that I'd happily scrap off. Allegory Devassi bolted up the last day, but again, she's disappointed previous to that. So yeah, look, I'm very happy to get her in the satchel. Bioluminescence. I think maybe the form will be franked with Dancing City. I do. Look, if I had to take one now, I'll have to go through the race properly, but I probably would favour Dancing City just because of the jumping of Ballyburn. But they've both got huge engines, and maybe the form will be franked come the Friday of the festival. So Bioluminescence, Mares Chase, 4-1, GSI.
Bioluminescence for Gavin Cromwell. I was very close, very, very close to putting up Only by Night this week, but having already been stung by trying to do the back it now so it runs at the weekend and get a shorter price with Potter's Charm and doing it horrendously, I'm going to wait on Only by Night. If she wins this weekend and she's a 5-1 shot next week, then that's fine. At least I know more about her before going into battle with her. She's very close, and she definitely gives Gavin Cromwell a great chance. bioluminescence and only by night potentially. But mine is a horse I've been sort of slightly mentioning here and there, and I'm finally going to get him in because he's a big price and he's getting squeezed by a couple of bookmakers. But Heartwood for the Ryanair. I checked with Rob Aitchison with Rob Core, obviously son of Brian Ashton, the owner. Just checking that Heartwood's going to the Ryanair. It's been the plan since Christmas to go straight to the Ryanair, and I think he's got a great chance. I know Factor File and whether he's going to go to the Ryanair is a big debate, and you've got Spillane Tower if he's going to go as well, depending on ground. But I think there's a lot to like about Heartwood. Go back and watch his run in the Savills Chase. He runs an absolute belter. There's a moment that when they turn for home in that sort of really cool Leopardstown camera angle that swings around the home bend before the last, and he makes a darting run at the far side rail. Looks to be sort of a length down on Galopin Des Champs, and then he just jumps the last and gets tired. But it's 3 miles going grade 1 Galopin Des Champs pace. I can understand why he didn't fully get out the 3 miles there. I know you do kind of want a little bit of a stare in the Ryanair, but I think, 2.5 miles on that new course, I think that could really suit him quite nicely. He's been really, really good so far this season and last season. He was second to Croke Park in the Drinmore this season. Croke Park's obviously since gone on to run behind Ballyburn and looks a pretty, top quality chaser for Gordon Elliott. Firefox in behind. Gorgeous Tom was a big eye catcher, and he's going to the Brown Advisory. He's a bit of an underdog as well. I'm not going to quote his form of beating Corbett's Cross by 7 lengths at the start of the season because it was a 3-horse race and only 1 horse was trying, but he still ran a good race that day and beat Corbett's Cross. And then like last season, as much as I know the way you're thinking is maybe having a bit of a tough time of things at the moment, he ran a good race on the weekend, and finishing third behind him in the Mildmay is not a bad piece of form. Also behind Oroco, who looks like it's all rose to the Grand National of him, ahead of Chianti Classico, who went and won that Ascot handicap chase at the start of the season, and then has potentially suffered a career-ending injury at Cheltenham subsequently, but as a piece of form, beating him and finishing ahead of him is really, really good. And look, he's just thoroughly unexposed, even going back to Dublin Racing Festival success when he smashed out Rianne and James de Burley. James de Burley nearly went on to win the Topham. Cool Survivor has Colixios form, adamantly chosen, beaten 29 lengths. I know the way you're thinking was beaten 29 lengths. Percival Legalwar has just won over hurdles on the weekend. Like, this is good form, and I just think he's a big price for unexposed, improving 7-year-old. Heartwood for the Ryanair, I think there's a lot that you can maybe have question marks about. Factor File and Gaelic Warrior being 2 of them, but he's a big price, and either way, I'll be backing him. And I have backed him for the Ryanair at 25s. Go on, Lee.
I'm going to be devil's advocate. So if Factor File, Ile Fonse, Gaelic Warrior all went against you,
Heartwood would get lapped.
What?
Well, I certainly wouldn't be getting
get lapped.
No, I guess you'd have a fine chance.
Very warm Ryanair. I know there's 4 being scratched from the Gold Cup the other day. Jerry Colom's now out. Is some going to step down, and that could be a very warm Ryanair. Like I do like.
I've been harsh on Heartwood there, by the way. I actually do. I really like the shout. I really do. But like Lee said there, that Ryanair could be. Yeah. If they all go, and you've got like the likes of Gaelic Warrior coming up and Ile Fonse coming down and Protectorate in there. What a race that could be.
It's a warm race, but I want to back him now just in case he got a touch shorter. I don't think he's going to be this big value player. I don't think he's going to be this kind of like 8-1 SP kind of thing, like I've been trying to seek out already, because this is just going horrendously so far. But I do think Heartwood is a good shout at the Ryanair, and he's my kind of price. So 25s. Very quickly, nod to the audience Cheltenham tip. There was 2 that were on very similar likes on our post. It was Sergino for the Arkle, and it was Stumptown for the cross country. Well, I think, gentlemen, Sergino's an odds-on shot for the Arkle, and you've got Stumptown at 5-2. Look, should we give it?
You've got to go with whatever the most likes is. You can't.
Right. Okay. It's Sergino then. Sergino got 2 comments and more likes. So Sergino, whatever price he is for the Arkle, I'll pop it in the table, which will be on screen now in editing sphere. Sergino is the latest audience nap for week 3, and that's all for the Cheltenham section, and all for Rishi. Rishi, thank you very much. Really, really enjoyed you coming on, and I hope you had a good time yourself.
Well, I always enjoy your company. I enjoyed it when I did it last year. I'm really glad that you guys asked me back. I've enjoyed it again. It's your enthusiasm I love. So never lose it. Never lose it.
Top man, Rishi. Thank you so much.
Anything you're looking at for the weekend at all? Just
I like Hansard in the what's it called? William Hill, Newbury Handicap Hurdle. I liked Hansard in that. I see Jericho de Repene has 2 entries. He's entered Exeter on Sunday, and he's entered a Warwick on Saturday. And if anyone had said to me after he beat Secret Squirrel in that race, they're both obviously raced off level weights, that he would be running in a handicap hurdle of 134, I think he is this weekend. Secret Squirrel's actually got a decent chance, obviously, in that race at Newbury. But I liked his run last time. It was a better run, obviously, after what happened at Sandown. Wherever he runs, I'll be probably having a bet on him. So those are the two that I'll be keeping an eye out for.
Amazing. Well, these are races we're going to be speaking about in the second half of the video. Rishi, thank you very much. Really appreciate it, and best of luck.
Thanks, guys.
Yes, thank you very much to Rishi Persad for coming on. Just brilliant to see him again, and really just lovely bloke. Before we get on into our weekend previews, we'll be covering Denman Chase and the old Betfair Hurdle. We've got a great giveaway, fantastic giveaway to announce. So I'll hand over to Lee for a bit more information.
Yeah, well, look, thanks to Rishi there for joining us. That was a fantastic interview. But next week we've got Paul Ferguson. Of course, he writes the Cheltenham Guide, and we've got 3 of the Cheltenham Guides to give away. You can do digital format. You've got the hard copies there, the books as well. But it's a really good guide. Gets plenty of traction. It does, Paul, because it's literally like one of the top guides out there. It's a Weatherby's copy, but yeah, we've got 3 of them to give away, and one of them we're going to do, if you comment under the video, Only Fools Love Horses Cheltenham Guide, then we will give one of the lucky comments. We'll give one of them away, and we'll give a couple more on Twitter as well. So I'll start that on Sunday. Paul will be on next week. We'll give a few more away. So we've got 3 to give away. They're really good guides. And we've also got a code. So go and check out our pin post that we'll do for that competition. And there's a code. You get some discount off if you're not lucky to win the competition, Ash, anyway. So yeah, so Only Fools Love Horses, Cheltenham Guide. Comment that. We'll pick a winner.
There you go. Only Fools Love Horses, Cheltenham Guide in the comments, and we'll get a nice guide over to you. Right, gentlemen, we're going to keep it nice and short and snappy for our weekend preview. We have got Denman Chase, Game Spirit, Kingmaker over at Warwick, the William Hill Hurdle, but it's the old Betfair. So we'll dive into it. We'll go in Newbury first of all, 3 races just from there to have a little look at. And probably one of the more interesting graded races betting-wise of the weekend is the Denman Chase. Betting on screen, Brave Man's Game 2-1, Jello 3-1, Hitman 5s, Garlaw 7, same price of the Patron, Fuchsia's 8-1, Eldorado Allen 12s, and Sam Brown completes it at the same price. Harry, Denman Chase, Brave Man's Game gets weight from Jello here. He's got the Grand National as the big target. Is this the horse you want to be on for the weekend?
I wouldn't trust him. He's one of those horses that he's lost not my respect. I think that's a little bit harsh, but he's certainly not the horse that he was. Jello bumped into Protector around, I think Jello's got to go right-handed instead of left. So process of elimination, I think Hitman ran a blinder in this behind Shishkin, who was on form last year. Hitman was closing all the way to the line. He just bumped into one. As simple as Shishkin was a monster on his day and stayed for days. I think Hitman is a big old price at around 5-1.
Yeah, I can see the case there. Just wondering which horse goes, because Brave Man's Game, the handicap weights for the Grand National get announced the Tuesday after. Just wonder if they don't want to blow Brave Man's Game's mark kind of thing, or give him too many couple pounds for the Grand National.
Or he runs no race and he gets 4 more. So
who knows? Who knows? The wonderful world of training horses, eh? Lee, Denman Chase, how do you see it?
Yeah, I actually thought Hitman was probably the play in it. Look, like Harry says, I don't know if he's a bit soft. Brave Man's Game, maybe I'm crabbing him a bit too much. He goes there with a live chance because he's a very classy horse. Jello, I'm not a fan of. I thought he was well put in his place last time out behind Protectorate. I'm just not warm to him. Simple as Gallo missed the intended run in the over hurdles at Cheltenham and comes here now. But is a sloppy jumper himself. They're all linked somehow, and it's not a great race, is it, Ash? I would take Hitman if I had to take a dart, but yeah, not confident.
Yeah, I'm going to wait till declarations, I think. The Grade 2 Game Spirit Chase, we get to see Sir Gino, hopefully. He's got the entry in this. This and the Kingmaker looks like this is going to be his race. Very good to see him dropping out of novice company into open company. He's got Matata 6-1 take on, Edwardstone 7s, Liberty Hunt the same price, Matachui 16s, Jello is also in here at 20-1, and JPL1 the same price. Lee, look, Sergino should be winning this.
Yeah, should be, but it's actually I did put a post on Twitter then while mentioning it before. It's still a tough race, Ash. Like he's stepping. These are open company horses where they're older, they're more experienced. They've got graded form as well. So it's you're chucking them in against. I would have said better horses than the likes of Marshmas contended against there at the weekend. But look, he should be winning this. He had the class to win a fighting fifth, even though he had been schooling over fences. He went and won the fighting fifth. Look, it wasn't a great fighting fifth. It wasn't a vintage renewal, that's for sure. But he won it by 8 lengths or so. He's bolted up in it. He's got good form. He beat Ballyburn in the last year. Look, Ballyburn's come out and franked that form, but look, it wasn't Ballyburn's trip. I totally get that. He smashed through the last, but he can only do what he can do himself, Gino. And look, he should be winning this. I would just put it in, and we'll get onto it. But the Kingmaker there at Warwick, Leo de Sud, look, second in the market is Sergino because his intended run is here. I'd double them up before maybe you get to the. If you're watching on the Wednesday, you can double them up before they get to the final decks on Thursday morning there. That's how I'd play it. But yeah, look, I'm hoping Sergino wins. I'm hoping he puts a few of the Irish back in their box as well, because they're saying, look, we've still got to contend now. Marshmas, this and that and thing. I just think Sergino's a freak. I hope he goes and bolts up and gives us another one contender for the Brits, because at the minute, look, we're thin on the ground, but Nicky's back on all cylinders, and come on, Gino.
I'll see if I can get that double priced up. I just wonder if a couple of bookmakers might not price it up because it's kind of a related double, but we'll see if there's any bookmakers that will potentially do it.
Yeah.
We'll see what we can do anyway. Harry?
I think echo what Lee. I think this weekend or last weekend has been a little bit painful for everyone that's back, Sergino included, because you kind of you've got a bullet to fire. You need to wait a week to fire it as such. To fire back at them. Madsborough, brilliant horse, and he couldn't have done much more on his second chase start. But I mean, people have got to remember what Sergino did to Ballyburn. Ballyburn was what is now a Turner's Novices Hurdle winner. He absolutely destroyed him. And Ballyburn's he's not too short of pace. He's not slow by any means. And Sergino was, I remember filming that little thing I did with Nico de Boinville after his debut. He said, I couldn't keep pulling him back. It was just, it wasn't right to do at the end. This horse beats,
didn't he?
Yeah, if this horse beats these, who he's given Matata £1, he's given Liberty Hunter £1, he's given he's getting a couple of pounds from the likes of Master Chewy and Edwardstone, but you got to remember, Edwardstone's been bumping into the likes of John Bon, and he's an Arkle winner. This is a big ask for an upcoming 5-year-old on only his second chase start, which is it's ridiculous to think of. And I hope he batters them. That's what I hope.
1.35 to 1 Sky Bet.
That is a piling job, that. Surely. I mean, Lotus Sud can't. Lotus Sud will literally have to get round. That's all he's got to do. And Sergino's just got to prove to everyone that he is this freak. Surely,
add to it though. I haven't took it myself yet. I'm gonna go and I'll have a good look tomorrow. But
some bookmakers will do 4 to 5. Some kind of just won't take the double because it's related. So Sky Bet's your best.
They're sensible.
All right, well, while we're on the topic, gents, just Kingmaker. Look, there's the pricing anyway. Ludsud 1-2, Sergino 6-7-4, reward 4s, Castanomento 16s, Headley 25s, risking the ground 33s. Look, Ludsud, yes.
Yeah, if Rubo beat him, Lotus Sud, you may as well say bye to the Arkle. So
yeah, if you take out Gino there, look, he's got no dangers, and he's a really good jumper. He made one mistake. I think it was the 4th last on debut, and he's powered home there at Cheltenham, I thought, and Sandown again. he's already kind of polished. Yeah, look, he wins, and yeah.
Did John Bond win this race? Lee?
Yes, he nearly got beaten by Calico.
He
Yeah,
beat
I remember
Calico
actually.
in a match.
Yeah, I remember being at Newbury.
I remember actually, I got shit for that because I said, "Oh, John Bond's half fit." I mean, and this and that. I remember saying that, and everyone was like, "Nicky won't have it half fit." This and that. Well, look what Al Fabiola did to him. I was proven wrong, as I usually am.
It was funny. It was just I was watching it at Newbury, I think, and everyone was like watching the screen, and Calico sort of out jumped him down the back straight, and everyone went, "Oh my god!" And then John Bond just got fast in the end. Anyway, final race to talk about is the William Hill Handicap Hurdle, the old Betfair Hurdle, to everyone that knows. Betting rolling along the screen there. Secret Squirrel, 11-2. Joyeuse, 6-1. Navajo Lady, 9s. Favor and Fortune, 10s. Tell her the name, same price. Washington, 14s. 50 Proud, 16s. Hansard, 16s. 25 bar. The two gents either side of me will have their finalised Betfair Hurdle, William Hill Hurdle fancies on Saturday's show. So make sure to tune in on the live then. So I'm going to fire a couple of darts. First of all, I just want to mention the ground. It's soft at Newbury. It's rained a little bit today. It's meant to be dry for the rest of the week. Newbury tends to drain fairly well. I think it'll be good soft ground. I don't think it's going to be good ground. I don't think it's going to be really bad soft ground, but they're also putting up a nice strip of new ground on the hurdle track, which I think is going to be very interesting. So I think it's just going to be no excuses ground, which is really annoying because no excuses ground makes it really hard to punt on sometimes. But the two for me, I want to mention Tell Her the Name. 10-1, 137 is his mark. He was meant to be going for the Greatwood Hurdle. They decided to swerve that and go for the Fighting Fifth. He ran a good race on seasonal reappearance behind Sir Gino. Just was never going to win the race, but still a fine run. He's got good form. Like he was second to Django Bay on Hurdle's debut, which is obviously pretty decent form. Considering Django Bay's nearly won a Grade 1 on the weekend and has beaten Caldwell Potter at Cheltenham. Is a really nice horse. Then smashed up Lucky Place at Huntington again. Lucky Place is a Grade 2 Hurdle winner. Disappointing in the form, but that's on soft ground, then went to Huntington again, won nicely. Disappointing in the Supreme because I was on soft ground. So he just like good ground. That's the thing here. What I didn't realise is that after his Fighting Fifth run, they found a benign tumour, which they sort of got injected. It was all fine. That's why he's had 70 days off the track. Now, I can see him. I see two possibilities here right on the weekend. He's either absolutely raring to go and he bolts up, or he's just slightly below it. The ground on the good softer side of good soft catches him out, and he just doesn't win. I know that's me saying he either wins or he doesn't, but hear me out. Hear me out. Basically, I looked at him as a price for the county hurdle at 33-1 for the county. I fancy him. I'd fancy him. He's going to be one that if he gets an entry this coming week, couple of weeks time, if he gets an entry for the county hurdle. Yeah, I'll back him.
So I did get a word that he was going to go to the Jerry Fielding and Fighting Fifth weekend. So that would have been the handicap mark blue. But then they did put the Fighting Fifth, and they knew they wouldn't get to the likes of Sergino, Mescal Power and stuff. And they kind of saved his mark, whether it's for this or whether it's for your county, Ash. But that's just the way that I had. So he was due to go to the Jerry Fielding, and they chose to go to the Fighting Fifth. So a handicap mark save, maybe.
He's basically really well handicapped at 137, and I'm happy to back him this weekend with the knowledge that the ground might just be on touch on the soft side for him, and he's coming back after a small little couple weeks rest kind of thing. I'm happy to do that because if he doesn't win or he runs well and hits a place, I'm almost certain he'll go to the county hurdle and run a huge race. So, that's Telling the Name at 10-1. But then as a dart...
Would you put in, maybe it's just for the viewers now, that because it's not going to be much shorter than 10s, if the rain does come, maybe he's waiting until decks. Just obviously, we're not trying to lose anybody money here, and maybe it's just wait till after the decks to make sure that definitely does go for that. I
do foresee a future this horse goes off like 5-1 for this race though. If the money comes after decks, then look, you kind of guess maybe decisions made. But I read an article that he's running in this race, so do with that what you will. But as an actual one at a bit of a bigger price, which I think is going to run a big race this weekend, not that Telling the Name isn't, but just as a one that's maybe a touch more solid, give me 5, 33-1, not a bad price there. Second, Caliph de Burley in the Adonis. Caliph de Burley is rated 152 over fences now. And the third, Captain Marvellous, when I franked the form at Warwick before, sadly suffering a fatal injury, but that was still sort of form franked. Beat Bottas' Secret, in the Maston Holdings Hurdle at Cheltenham. I know he then went to Fairy House and was beaten, but Amsterdam won that race that he went over to Fairy House for, which is, pretty decent form. Dodger Long was behind him at Cheltenham, and Dodger Long kind of ran to his mark in that race at Fairy House to finish third to Amsterdam. I think Give Me Five slightly underperformed over in Fairy House. And then he was disappointed at Windsor last time out, but 28-1, Michael O'Sullivan was booked on board. I just don't think he was going to win that race. And Harry Durham, he wasn't able to use his gallop for a month. I've been taking that with a pinch of salt for all of his runners. I think, Give Me Five's got a bit of a chance here. So, I'll chance him at 33-1. I think he's got a good chance at the prices. Gentlemen, I'm going to go. Anything else? Do we have anything else? Or are we just going to fire into just sending the video off into the sunset?
Save it for Saturday. That's what I'd say.
There you go. We'll send it off into the sunset. Thank you very much for watching. And please do make sure to like and subscribe. Lee, what time are we going to be back on Saturday morning?
10:30 a.m. on Saturday. Every Saturday morning, we're covering the ITV races live on our Twitter page, Only Fools of Horses and Racing. So go and follow that page, subscribe, hit the like on this button, as many likes as we can, and all them comments as well. Do comment your fancies, but Only Fools of Horses, Cheltenham guide, comment that. We'll give a guide away, and we've got Paul Ferguson next week. So thanks for all the support, and I really enjoyed this one, lads.
Yeah, really, really good stuff. And again, thank you very much for Rishi for coming on. Do the guide, Only Fools of Horses, Cheltenham guide in the comments. That's all really. Back next week. Best of luck, and we'll see you.
I'll try and be early this time. I'll try and be early next week.
You're a hard-working man. We don't hold it against you too much anyway. But if you do it one more time, then it's going to be a black mark against your name.
Yeah. Okay. So, cheers, boys.